Welcome, children of the night, back to the Infernal Archive. On this episode, we are watching a French film called Them from 2006. And as always, I want to read you a little Wikipedia blurb here. Them, in French, Ils, is a 2006 French-Romanian horror film directed by David Moreau and Xavier Palud. According to a title card at the beginning of the film, it is based on real events. And we were kind of commenting that that's like a really weird sound.
Passive-aggressive way to say that.
Say, I fucking doubt it. Like the title card at the beginning claims. It's very funny. Olivia Bonamy plays Clementine, a young teacher. Bonamy plays Clementine, a young teacher who has recently moved from France to a remote but idyllic country house near Bucharest, Romania, with her lover Lucas, played by Michael Cohen. Their peaceful life turns into a fight for survival when they are attacked by mysterious assailants. It's just not as scary when it's in a French accent, I'll tell you what.
Well, what are you then? I'm French. Why do you think I have this outrageous accent, you silly king? What are you doing in England? Mind your own business.
Care less, too, about the characters when they speak in that.
Is it French language? That's the one thing I was kind of curious about. Probably, right? Yeah, French and Romanian, I guess. I'll just read the production. The production thing is very short. Might as well just get into that. The film has been advertised as being based on real events. The true story, which supposedly it's based on, is that of an Austrian couple who were murdered by 3 teenagers while vacationing in the Czech Republic, but no concrete evidence has emerged to prove this tale. They shot the movie in 30 days. Some people had some panic attacks because of claustrophobia. One of the lead actress, I think. So they say that in the film, when you see her crawling and her face of fear, it is genuine terror, not an act.
She's actually having a panic attack.
Yeah, they just stuck her in a small box and were like, "Fucking, let's see how long it takes you till you start panicking." Anyways, we're gonna check it out. Thanks for watching, and we will see you and give you our thoughts when we come back.
Slow down. They all slow down here.
Welcome back, children of the night. We have just finished watching Them from 2006, and it's not I think we're kind of wanting a home run here pretty quickly, because we've been on a bit of a tear of films that haven't been amazing and some that have been really outright bad. This wasn't the home run, definitely not.
Aggressively mid, I think, as we both kind of said. It was definitely could have been worse.
What a filthy job. Could be worse. How? Could be raining.
Definitely could have been better.
Yeah.
Solid middling movie, I would say, across the board.
I think we've spoken about this before, but some films that it kind of brings to mind. It's sort of like a not as good The Strangers.
Yeah.
Whereas The Strangers had a very similar premise where it's like it's a couple in a house kind of in the middle of nowhere, and then some randoms come and fuck with them. But The Strangers had like some good jump scares and like some good solid scary imagery and stuff. This film was quite light on frightful imagery. It had some good, like the sound was really good. It had some really creepy sound stuff going on. It weirdly reminded me of in the second Last of Us game, there's this faction of people who use like bows and arrows, and when you're fighting them, you fight them in like a forest setting, and they communicate via whistling. So it's a really
like animal call, bird sounds.
It's this really cool part of the game where it's like, and then you're like, oh fuck, or whatever. So it was along those lines, not the same, but felt kind of like that. Also kind of it made me think, like, you know how when we watched The Invisible Man, which is like a really like the newer Elizabeth Moss one, we were like, it's a phenomenal film. Yeah. But like one thing we said was like, if you were a woman, this film would be like even scarier, because it very much plays on a lot of those fears of like fucking scary man like overpowering you and just trying to fuck with you. And I wonder if this film too maybe would be a little more effective for a female audience, just because of the home invasion. And part of the film, it's like it's a man and a woman, and at one stage he gets crippled, so then she doesn't really have her protector anymore necessarily, and like so maybe it would be a little more effective if you were a woman who has a fear of like home invasion and stuff. But yeah, I liked the color palette a lot. It was very muted. It was cool that like, and it wasn't like a film that, it was probably a little bit desaturated, but some movies will just desaturate or be in black and white. This movie was like, the paint on the walls was great. Like the wardrobe they wore,
everything
was very desaturated. So like it had a pretty great vibe. Had a couple good little, I'm not gonna say jump scares, but stuff that was like, oh shit. There's a thing with a screwdriver that was pretty like shocking, and then there was a guy used a 2x4 in a really surprising way.
The setting in general was kind of cool, even though the second half of the setting was like, it was cool. It didn't make a lot of sense as to why it was there, but like, it was cool.
Yeah, it's like, it was like this real architecture that obviously exists in the real world, but we were like, what the fuck was this built for? It was just this like really elaborate set of really long tunnels, and we were like, was
ancient,
this like
almost looked like ancient ruins, like, or cast, like historical architecture ruin.
Like it felt early 20th century to me, but it's like I couldn't for the life of me, like, was it sewage? I don't know. It was really cool, very arresting, but it felt a little like out of nowhere that like, oh, now we're in these tunnels.
Like we're in this ramshackle old mansion building with a greenhouse, and then beside this out of town secret hideaway building is this like really elaborate tunnel system now. And it's like, also, did the killers, like, do they know this existed and this is where they operated out of, or is this like they're kind of happening on this tunnel system now?
It felt almost like exceedingly European. Like, of course there's random tunnels in the middle of, like, a really elaborate tunnel structure in the middle of the woods. Of course, why wouldn't you have this? Like, yes, it's Romanian. Well, this is set by Bucharest, but it's like, yes, in this area of Europe, we build tunnels in the middle of forests for no purpose other than for murderers to maybe use them. Who knows? Oh, it's spooky. But yeah, I did not enjoy it. The movie's also very short. I think it came in at like 72 minutes. So
I think that really, really had to go. That's something it had going for it for sure.
Like if this movie had gone on for another 20 to 30 minutes, it would have been dragged. Like, it would have been like, okay, the pacing is dead now. But the fact that it's so quick, it does do some things pretty well. I would say I would give this like I would give it like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 maybe. Like it's not.
Again, like it's really hard for me to say. Maybe if you like spoke French, you didn't need the subtitles, it would bump it up a little bit too. Because for me, especially with horror, if I'm constantly paying attention to subtitles, it detracts from the experience a little bit.
Totally.
Especially when it's like home invasion type.
Yeah, totally.
Thing.
You can't be like in the moment or whatever. Yeah, totally.
A little bit. Like I try not to weight that against it, but it's definitely was there for me a little bit.
Yeah, I could see how if I think we were talking about this a little bit too. If the stars were aligned a little bit, like let's say you did a little more work to like you had the lights off, you're watching it at night, you watched it with headphones, whatever. If you kind of line things up like that, maybe this film would give it that little edge to be like, oh, it is quite good or whatever.
It's got some spookiness to it.
Yeah, because the sound design was very cool, and it cultivated an atmosphere and stuff, and once it got going, and I really enjoyed that it didn't really explain too much. It had we saw some shit, and it was like a lot of it was left up to us to kind of figure out and parse out or whatever.
I will say that's one thing it did well, is it didn't spoon. I enjoy when a film doesn't have to spoon feed you stuff, and so it doesn't, and it gives you enough to kind of connect dots without giving you the whole story.
Yeah.
And it never, there's stuff that was unexplained as a result of that for sure, but I don't feel like I'm missing a ton.
Frustrated
or
it is kind of an art to know what stuff you should explain and what stuff you shouldn't explain, because like some stuff you expect to be a little more or whatever, and if that stuff isn't present in a film, then you get frustrated and you're like, well, I couldn't get into it or whatever. So yeah, it is cool when a movie can keep things away from you but not keep the wrong stuff away from you or whatever.
Give you just enough mystery to have some intrigue without having you unable to connect with the material.
I bring It Follows up ad nauseum, but it's a movie that movie is like to me the perfect example of like it does that. It keeps stuff away from you in the perfect way that keeps you intrigued and whatever, and never explains too much. Bradford, you're on
I think you know.
Oh, I gotta get my.
It's not even the best. It's it's just very mid. We'll pause here for one moment.
Ignore the. There's nothing going on.
There's nothing going on.
There's the stuff.
No, it's definitely not even the. it's not even the best. Wasn't even the best foreign film we watched in this grouping. Like, for that, I have to give Vanishing or The Vanishing.
Oh yeah,
that was
definitely
not only one of the best, you know, subtitled foreign film, one of the better films in the bunch that we've watched so far.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's the thing. The
I
other
would watch that film again. I don't feel like I ever need to watch this film again.
No,
I would watch The Vanishing. I would watch Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Totally.
Again. Both of those films are like ones that I'm actually going to add to the repertoire.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, that's the one thing that this film doesn't have going for it, is like the films that Andrew just brought up are like exceedingly original in some way, like either they're structurally or just what they're about and whatever. This film, nothing about it is necessarily original. Like I've seen all these tricks done elsewhere. I'll say the thing with the 2x4, I don't think I've seen that in another film. I did.
Cool.
Those two moments, I was genuinely like, that was sick. I like that you took it's always cool when you can take a mundane thing and then present it in a new way that's like, oh fuck, that's scary. So I did appreciate that. But yeah, generally like 95% of this film you've seen done in other places and maybe done a little bit better, like The Strangers, or there's even parts of Silent Hill that were kind of reminiscent when they're in the tunnels and stuff. That's similar to that or whatever. One thing I was scared of going into this film, because it's this period of French cinema is famous for being like quite horrific.
Yeah, really fucked up.
There's a film called Martyrs that I think came out in 2008 that I saw years ago. That is genuinely, it's one of the most fucked up, upsetting films I've ever seen. And I was scared. We started watching and I was like, oh God, this movie's from that. It's French and it's from that same period. I'm like, I hope this isn't gonna be. I'm not mentally prepared for existential fucked up shit. And then luckily it wasn't quite by the numbers like invasion films. So if you like home invasion stuff, you'll enjoy this film. It's nice, short, to the point. It is subtitled, which is if you don't like that kind of thing, but it's 70 minutes long, whatever. Not too bad. Alrighty, let us bring forth
spin
the unholy wheel.
The unholy wheel.
And see what we will watch next time. We only have 3 films left on our.
We should almost flip a coin for the last one or something.
The last 2?
Yeah.
Wow. There's one there's one art house film on this list, and we've been lucky so far.
We had to get it eventually.
We will be watching on the next episode of the Infernal Archive. We'll be watching Begotten from 1989, which is an art house film. Let's see if we can even sit through the whole thing.
We may not be able to.
We'll let you know.
We'll let you know.
We'll let you know. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.